Hello everybody, welcome back. And in today's video I wanted to show off the first part in the restoration of this laptop. This is the second laptop I ended up getting for free from a woman, and she claimed it wasn't working. I'll get to that in a second. It's a Dell Inspiron 1545. So like the other one, it's in Dell Inspiron, but a much older model. As you can see, it's running Windows 7. It's got a Pentium inside. What an achievement. It's kind of gross and filthy. I'll need to fully and properly clean it. However, the good thing is that I isolated the problem and everything else checks out except the disk. The disk is the thing that failed. And the disk is failing. So I will be replacing it with an SSD or a different disk, depending on basically what the person who wants to buy this is willing to pay for and what they want. Because I'm going to be selling this model, I think, unless I end up giving it to my brother for his note-taking purposes in class. The thing fires up and everything passes in terms of self-tests, except for the disk, which encountered like 50 different bad sectors in a row before I decided just to kill it and pull the plug and decided, yeah, whatever. An entire chunk of the hard drive was just completely messed up. But yeah, now this laptop is actually kind of cool. I like it because it has something that modern laptops don't really have anymore, at least not to this extent. And I must admit, I kind of fell in love with this machine once I turned it over, actually. Because once I turn it over, I find something awesome. Now, many older laptops, and some modern ones even, have what David from David Does Tech Stuff, you should follow him on YouTube, he's good, what David calls a glory hole. And this thing has a magnificent glory hole because not only can you access and change and service the Wi-Fi or upgrade it, and the RAM, quite standard to be able to access. And over here, there's actually a disk caddy that I've taken out currently. And all you need is just 2 screws and you can pull out the disk caddy. You can access the entire cooling solution from just 4 screws, or maybe it's 5 screws. It's 3 screws and some clips, which is like, that's crazy. Like, why can't we have this on modern laptops? The only thing you can't clean without taking off the entire back is the fan, but you can still pop out the heatsink and the entire, so you could definitely repaste it and also clean out some of the dust from the heatsink without even going any further. That is so cool. I love that. And this thing definitely needs a rechange of thermal paste because it's getting kind of toasty and it's basically doing nothing. It's getting temperatures in the 60 to 70 degree range just idling on the desktop. So yeah, it's definitely going to need a repaste. Now, another thing that this older laptop has, which is really cool, is not only can you repaste it and clean it out, it's a socketed CPU, as you can see. So I actually found, after some research, that there is a better processor I can put in here for about $13. I found one on eBay for about $13. I don't know if it works. I'm just going to have to assume that it works. And I could order that if I wanted. This thing has 2 cores and 2 threads. All of the CPUs that are compatible with this have 2 cores, 2 threads. The difference has to do with the what's it called? I'm blanking. The clock speed and also the cache. So I found, I did this research like a week ago. I just haven't gotten around to making a video about it. But I found that this is a Pentium T something. I don't remember the name. I'll remember the name later and then I'll say it. But yeah, I found a top level CPU, a Core 2D, can't even speak. I found a 2 core Core 2 Duo. And from what I've researched, because I didn't know about this, it seems like the only difference between the Pentium and the Core 2 lineup in this case has to do with the cache and the clock speed. So I found the best CPU I was able to find for this for a reasonable price has way more cache. I'll walk through that in the next part of this video, or whenever I talk about the upgrades. I'm not sure if I'm going to upgrade this thing, but if I do decide to, I'll definitely upgrade it to the CPU with not only a better clock speed, but also one with, I think it has an extra 3 megabytes of L2 cache, and this one only has 1 megabyte. So yeah, significantly better in terms of performance. Now, as for this machine in terms of operating system, this thing actually has a connected Windows 7 Pro license. So I was thinking either about reinstalling Windows 7 on this thing, which is still a very capable and decent operating system. In fact, the only reason I don't use it myself is just because it no longer receives security updates, and the only browser I know of that still does that kind of stuff is Firefox. But I guess that's just because it's open source. But yeah, I could very well upgrade this thing to Windows 10, but the thing is, these two-core CPUs really don't like Windows 10. Windows 10 taxes them heavily just for existing, like just idling on the desktop doing nothing takes anywhere between 10 to 15% of most 2-core CPUs I've used. And that's on a fresh install. As you start installing things, it's going to get more and more. And the RAM I have is came with 8 gigabytes of RAM. No, 4 gigabytes. Yeah, 4 gigabytes of RAM. And I can upgrade that to 8, which is the maximum. However, if I install Windows 7 on this thing, I shouldn't do that because Windows 7 can only take 3.5 gigabytes of RAM. Unless, of course, there's a Windows 7 64-bit version. I don't actually know. I don't really have much experience with Windows 7, I must admit. Mostly Windows 10. But if there's a 64-bit version, then I'll definitely upgrade it to 8 gigs, because whether it's in Windows 10 or even still in Windows 7, RAM is always one of those things you're always running out of. At least I am. But we'll see what I end up doing with this. Will partly influence what kind of RAM I upgrade, and same with the CPU. If my brother's going to use it, I might decide to do that. But yeah, we'll see. And here's the wireless card. I don't expect it to be amazing, but it's probably okay. It's good enough, I'm sure. Yeah, that's about it for the overview. I guess all I'll do now is just mention the ports. If I can get any amount of good light. I don't exactly have a studio here, and we have a Kensington lock. We have the power input. We have 2 USB. I think those are 2.0s, but they might also be 1.0s. I'll have to check the manual. I think I have the manual downloaded in PDF form on my phone, so I'll definitely be checking that at some point when I'm looking to do upgrades. Actually, I think I did look at it. I don't know. I don't remember what those are, but they're either 1s or 2s. They're definitely not 3s. VGA and LAN. This is, I think, 10100. I think that is anyways. I did some research on this laptop a while ago, but I just haven't gotten around to making a video about it. And yeah. On the other side, there's let's see if I can actually get some light. On the other side, you have the CD drive. It does have the cover, but it keeps falling off, so I think I'm going to have to super glue it on or something. I think the clips broke. Now, at first I didn't even notice this. This is something interesting, a kind of a blast from the past if it would ever focus. Focus, maybe? Maybe focus? Okay. Yeah, this is called a PCMCIA slot. And it's like one of the smaller versions. Now, it has this plastic cap, and I can't seem to pop it out, so I'm gonna guess it actually doesn't have it, and that's why it has this blank here. I'm gonna guess that it actually didn't come with one. So like this was a model that didn't have one. And yes, I need to clean my desk. It's a bit of a mess, but oh well. Got my thermal paste rags over there. You know, gotta clean off the old thermal paste. Anyways, and then, yeah, another USB 1 or 2 here. So not really amazing when it comes to connectivity, but perfectly serviceable if I don't drop it on the floor. I need like a proper setup at some point, but that also means I'd have to invest some money into this, and this is just for fun, basically. This whole channel is just for fun. So I don't know if I'd invest, unless I decided that it would be fun to invest in it. You know, get a proper setup with proper studio lights and yeah, that kind of stuff. Anyways, yeah, that basically covers the overview. When I next talk to you, I will have this thing in pieces. Good news is, though, just from looking at it from what I can see, it's very clean inside, which is a good sign. So I don't think I'll have to do much by way of... I'm not going to do a complete tear down like someone like Cat and Andrew does. Another channel you should subscribe to, Cat and Andrew. I don't really do a full tear down, at least not on laptops, because I find laptops annoying to work with. But I at least tear it down enough to clean the major things. So, yeah. We'll see what I end up doing with this. Part of what I end up doing with this in terms of upgrades and whatnot will depend on who it's going to. So, yeah. Alright, see you soon. So I undid the back screws and I popped off the keyboard. Keyboard is quite grimy, quite a bit of dust and dirt. But at least every key is there, and I do believe that all the keys are working. Mind you, actually, yes, I did test it, yeah. So when I ran my full suite of tests on this thing, I tested each individual key, and yes, it does work. So, my sister is calling me. What was I saying? Right, so yeah, the keyboard works, it's just a bit dusty. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to clean out the keyboard, and I'm going to clean it key by key with some isopropyl alcohol on some Q-tips or cotton pads, and whatever you want to call them. I just say Q-tips, but I know that's like the Kleenex of facial tissue, or the jet ski of personal watercraft, but whatever. As for the rest of the underside of the keyboard, it's not too bad actually. There's a little bit of dust. The speaker grill, the speakers have some dust around them. And yeah, I'm not going to fully take this thing apart, I think, because as I said in the first part, this laptop seems remarkably clean actually. And every time you dig deeper, you run the risk of damaging things, and things usually just don't go back the same way once you take them out. So I will definitely... I don't think I'll be going deeper because I did tests on this thing and the rest of the components seem to work fine. So I'm just going to clean out the dust and repaste it. And I actually just popped this thing off because the keyboard was gross and I wanted to clean the keyboard. Also, so I can get to these 2 screws. So I can, so I can take off the back. Well, 3 screws actually. So I can take off the back and look at the rest of the motherboard on the bottom side. But I'm probably not going to take the whole thing apart. It's not a super in-depth cleaning. It's more of just a surface level restore. So, yeah. Interestingly, I've noticed there is a little connector right here. And I don't know what that connector is for. Perhaps if there's an optional, like more powerful speaker or something that you could have gotten on this thing. I don't know. I don't know what this little connector is for. But it doesn't connect to the bottom of the faceplate. And it doesn't connect to the keyboard anywhere. So I don't know what this little connector is for. I'm definitely going to look that up. because it has quite a beefy looking cable going from it to the motherboard, so I have no idea what that's supposed to be. But anyways, yeah, other than that, it all looks just fine. So I've cleaned the keyboard now. It's not perfect, but it's good enough, at least for now. But I could definitely give it a bit more of a cleaning. But I think it's a lot better than it was. So, yeah. So, looking at this, there's quite a bit of dust underneath the motherboard. Turns out I needed to take out the whole motherboard in order to properly clean it. So, oh well. Yeah, there's quite a bit of dust here, so I'm kind of glad that I did. And I need to access the cooling fan, so that's okay. I'm not going to do a complete full teardown, but because this is good enough for what it is. In terms of the motherboard, as we can see, it's quite clean. There wasn't really a lot of dust to begin with, but now it's extra clean. So I cleaned out the fan and this little side connector port thing, and I went over the rest of it with some isopropyl alcohol, and there's still some residue, some dirt, but it's coming together. Oh yeah, it's all coming together. Interestingly, this thing actually does have the PCMCIA slot. It's just there was a blank in here, which I thought perhaps, but how are you reasonably supposed to, without disassembling the entire laptop, how are you supposed to remove this blank? I can appreciate there's a blank in there to keep out the dust, but how are you supposed to remove it without disassembling the entire laptop? I don't know. I guess if I would need to actually remove this at some point in the future for whatever reason, I guess I would attach some temporary glue to a stick and pull it off that way or something. I don't know. I don't know how you're supposed to remove this because the top plastic sits quite flush with it. I guess if you were to pop one of these clips down here, maybe you could get something under there and pop it out or something. I don't know. But yeah, interesting that it actually does have the expansion slot.